do we got today? I'm tackling this list. That's what I'm doing. How's everybody doing today? Alright, so today we have hub motors. I have a set of hub motors. This is from a Genesis electric skateboard. It's a working set. They are good. I put this aside in the parts pile just in case I ever need a whole complete set or some parts or whatever. I mean, it's good to save the working stuff, right? It's not useless, we'll put it that way. But my goal today is to break this down and talk to you guys about how these are constructed. I've had a lot of requests for this video for several different reasons. So if I miss anything or you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, please. Like the old saying goes, there's no stupid questions. If you have a question, you need to answer. It's not stupid, don't worry, and forget what other people say. Because I've noticed sometimes in the comments, somebody will comment something, and then somebody else will come up and I mean, I'm not saying don't take advice from other people, but there's some rude people out there. Those comments get deleted. You're not going to be rude to my viewers. You can be rude to me all you want. You're not going to be rude to my viewers. Plain and simple. It's going to go. Nobody appreciates that. There might be people that appreciate the rudeness to me. I get that. Alright. What we have here are, well, they're labeled 350 watt, and I believe that's the max on these, is what they say. Because when they list them, it says 250 watt. That's the only assumption I could come up with, why they're labeled 350, but they only list them as 250. I guess. I don't know. Not a big deal to me, because today we're just going to break these down and we're going to talk about the construction of them. These hub motors here are equipped with Hall sensors, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and that's what these plugs are here. Now real quick, when it comes to the Hall sensors, if you have 6 wires on your Hall sensor, you're more than likely to have a temperature sensor on there. If you only have 5 wires, you probably don't have a temperature sensor. 1 wire is going to be your negative, 1 wire is going to be your positive, and then it's going to take 3 sensors to get that rotational pickup. And then 1 more sensor would be like the little heat sensor they put inside the motor. So if I actually chopped this one up, I've been working on a retrofit for different connectors for different boards. So you can go from like a 5-pin board to a 6-pin motor, or a 5-pin motor to a 6-pin board. This video isn't limited just to the Genesis hub motors. There's quite a few other hub motors out there that are very, very similar design. The Koowheel, of course. Maytech. Those two I know for a fact, and there's plenty others. Basically, if your design looks like this, you're going to be able to follow this. The parts are going to be all pretty much the same. Everything the same. We have the rear truck with the reverse kingpin in it. A little bit different than your standard style trucks. A lot of times this here would face the inside. Hey, what's funny is when I was showing my prototype, I was mocking it up. I just threw the trucks underneath it. Right away somebody noticed that. They're like, your kingpin's backwards. So if you're putting these together and you don't have any experience, just keep that in mind. Reverse kingpin. One's gonna face forward and one's gonna face backwards. And that's something I didn't know either before I got into electric skateboards. I didn't understand what a reverse kingpin was. Thank you very much to the person that pointed that out in the video, because that will be helpful to somebody. I know it. I definitely know it. Along with the wires that come off of it for the Hall sensors, you're gonna have these 3 wires here. These are your phase wires. Now what you're doing is you're taking DC current from a battery, you're putting it through a control board, and the electric that's coming out essentially is going to be AC current. It works off a three-phase. It's a three-phase electric motor is what it is. So you're going to have a harness for each motor. You're going to have your hall sensor wire, and you're going to have your phase wires. I don't know if that's the technical term for them. If somebody knows, please comment below. That's what I call them, the phase wires. But you're going to have electricity running through them, basically, is what's going on. One thing I want to mention before we get started, make sure your work area is clean. You don't want any dirt around. But more importantly, metal, like small metal parts, little screws, little washers, anything like that. Or if you're in a shop and you might have metal shavings, make sure all that's clean too. Very, very important, because these are magnets and it will pick stuff up. The potential to do that is pretty good because these magnets are strong, and I wouldn't want you to get anything in there because that could be detrimental to the motor. So be sure you clean the work area first before you start. I'm just telling you from experience. I'll admit, I screwed up a couple times. I never ruined the motor. I caught it before I used it, but I definitely had a couple little metal shavings in one time. Went to go turn it after I had it all put together. I'm like, what's that noise? I could only imagine if I would have applied electric to it, probably would have ruined it. So once you get it off your deck here, the very first thing you can do is take that center bolt out. Alright? Some I noticed have had some sort of locker on there, like Loctite. Some more than others. It can be a pain in the butt to get out. I always give this tip with the Allen wrench. Okay? I'll show you real quick with a paper clip because I don't have this style Allen wrench on me right now. But if you have an Allen wrench that looks like this, okay, and it's got a short end and a long end, when you're applying a lot of torque, use the short end. If you use the long end, that torque is going to transfer through the tool, and you're more than likely going to strip out what you're working on. It's more likely to strip it out, let's put it that way. So always try to use the short end when you're applying torque, and then the long end you can use when you're just, hand tightening it, or once you get it cracked loose, you can use the long end to completely loosen it up. This is a 4mm bolt. Yes. Did you hear that sound? Cracked it loose perfectly. Let me do the other side now. Have a magnet tray, that's what I highly recommend, taking your metal parts and putting them in that magnet tray. The very first thing you'll notice underneath that bolt, that is a bearing. So we're gonna have to pop these covers off. How do we go about taking the covers off? You're gonna use a number 1 Phillips head screwdriver. Take all these out here. Now be very, very careful when you take these out. You don't want to strip these little screws. That's such a pain in the ass when you strip one of these little screws. It's kind of like the last thing you want to do. If you don't have experience extracting screws after they've been stripped, you might have a hard time. Alright, let me go ahead and take out all those screws. The reason why I do that first is, for me, it's a lot easier to take them off while it's mounted on the truck. But you could just watch the video, skip forward, see how I take the wheel off, and then do it that way if you want. I mean, that's just preference. It's the way I like to do it. Alright, let me go ahead and take these out. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've taken out all the screws here. Both sides. Check it out. Screws are out. Now let's get this cap off of here. What you can do, tap around the edge with your rubber side of the screwdriver. You don't want to damage anything. If you have a rubber mallet, That's what I recommend you use. This isn't a hammer. I know there's gonna be people like, use the right tool. Listen, I'm not in my shop today. I just grabbed some things and came up here. I'm working with what I got. And you know what though, I know all you guys don't have all the right tools either. So it's a good little trick. I always just tap around the edge. It's gonna help separate the outside of the motor a little bit from this plate. You might not see a noticeable change, but it does actually help a little bit. And then I take the flat side of the screwdriver. Oop. Take the flat side of the screwdriver. Put it on that side. And then spin it all the way around. Put it on this side. And just work it. She will pop off. If you're having a little trouble, go ahead and tap the outside again. Sometimes just because from so much use, you know, rocks, and this edge gets beat up. It definitely gets beat up. You might not have the easiest time in the world getting this plate off. It will come off though. Just keep working it. Use that rubber wheel as leverage. It's real bouncy, real pliable. And you'll see right here, she's starting to pop up. If you get one side up, go to the other side. There we go. Work it, work it, work it, work it. Now once it gets like that, I can actually push this whole thing down. This one's already loose. Wham! Look at that. Pulled right off. This side I'm not so lucky with. Oh, one more little pry, and she popped off. All right, let's take a look at these caps while I have them off. In the center of these caps is a bearing here. It's not the same size bearing as your typical skateboard wheel bearing. You can see that center opening is larger. Outside of it's a little bit larger as well. Now, if you want to replace these bearings, it's definitely totally possible. These bearings are pressed in there. I realize not everybody's probably going to have a bearing press, but you might have a drill press. If you have a drill press, you could definitely rig something up with your drill press to press these out. Some people might not like that idea. Again, you're using a tool that's not made for that specific job. If you have a cheap drill press, it might ruin it. But a nice decent drill press will definitely do the job. I've done it before. You're gonna have to pop them out, and then you have to press the new ones in there. So don't forget, if you want to try to replace these, you're definitely gonna need a press of some sort. You're not gonna want to go hammering these out or anything like that. You're gonna want a nice fluid action when you extract them. So definitely a press is on the top of the list when it comes to taking these bearings out and putting the bearings in. So you got to remember too, when you put the bearings in, and if they're not on a perfect angle, what's going to happen is one side's going to cut in a little bit. You're going to create a burr, and it's going to sit lopsided. And then the odds of you actually taking that out and putting it in and seating it the right way are going to be slim to none. Then you're like going boogered up your case. It might leave a little area exposed that maybe water could slip through. Yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons why you want to be very careful if you're going to go replacing these bearings. So I got my two plates here. Bearings in the center. You guys get the idea. Alright. Now let's check the rest of this motor out. Here's what we got here. We got the caps off. Now those bearings are definitely crucial to this motor. It's gonna keep this magnetic part of the motor perfectly center inside this wheel. If those bearings do happen to fail, it's definitely gonna lead to motor failure. This is why I bring you these videos, because I have lived and learned. Now while I have the opportunity, there's been a couple of people that told me that they couldn't get the urethane wheel off of the motor, that it seemed stuck. So here's my first suggestion to do that. Let's take this off of here. These sometimes don't come off easy either. You may have to take your rubber mallet or your alternative tool and tap the backside of these. When you do tap it, make sure you tap evenly around the whole inside of the wheel. Don't go hammering on one side and then hammering right next to it. You're gonna wanna lightly tap, go from side to side. You do this side, the top, the bottom, and then repeat the process. Just take your time and be patient. That's gonna be my best advice. I know sometimes it gets aggravating and you just wanna be like, I wanna get this, It's really not the best idea. Been there, done that, and I have ruined some stuff doing that. I'm just speaking from experience again. I've already had this apart at one point, so mine may come off a little bit easier. Don't get deterred if yours don't come off right away. It will come off. I mean, they are designed to take apart and replace the motor. But basically, this is how that's on there, okay? And what you'll see is, this kind of looks like a regular truck, but right in here you have a square flange, and that's what holds that motor in place. That center part of the motor, that square flange. And that matches up with the back side of the motor as well. You'll see that square hole, and that goes right in there, and that's what holds it in place. You'll see here, you'll see these raised parts throughout. That's what actually keeps that motor from just spinning inside. All right, so go in between the two tabs right here with a flathead screwdriver, just like so. Put that in there. I'm gonna try to stick that in there as far as I can, all the way to that back plate, and then pull it out. Wasn't easy, but I got it in there. And then repeat the process. Go around the whole entire wheel, jam your little itty bitty thing in there. I would probably recommend wearing safety glasses if you're gonna be like this in your face. I actually wouldn't be like this in my face for doing it, but there is that potential when you come back, you could poke yourself. Safety first. I wouldn't say monkey see, monkey do when you watch me. I'll admit I kind of do get a little bit of carelessness in me. Just like all those videos I made without me wearing a helmet, that's pretty careless of me. It's definitely careless of me. Now once I've gone around my whole outside with the screwdriver, I've definitely loosened it up. Let me go ahead. Oh, that slipped right off. You'll see the culprit a little bit. Probably that rust right there was helping hold that urethane wheel on there. But you see, once I put my screwdriver in there and loosened it up, the wheel like fell right off basically. When all else fails, you can cut them off. I do recommend, since they were stuck on there, when you take them off, get a real fine piece of sandpaper. Or like when I say fine, I mean fine, like 600 grit, 800 grit, and just finish the surface off, okay? Now if you're gonna do that, don't forget you're working with metal. The motor's gonna have to be cleaned with electrical parts cleaner. And this is also maintenance too. If you wanna do some good maintenance to your board, you've been riding it through some crap, or you've been using it a lot, electrical parts cleaner will do wonders for your motors. I mean, it'll literally bring it back to life. As long as it's not too far gone, electrical parts cleaner is like the greatest thing in the world. If you have Outrunner motors like the Evolve Carbon GT or the Evolve Bamboo GT or the Evolve GTX, you get the idea. It's very easy to clean those motors. You know, you just right through the back. You really don't have to break anything down. But you're gonna wanna make sure all that stuff flashed off, and you're gonna wanna make sure that as you're spraying, the runoff comes out of the motor. You don't wanna like hold the motor like this, spray it this way, because what's gonna happen, all the dirt's gonna wash back into the motor. So make sure you have it like upside down, you spray and it washes out. And now you're gonna wanna separate that magnetic core from the outside casing. Take note to the wire inside. The very last thing you're gonna wanna do is damage any of these wires at all, because you're gonna have a major problem. You're gonna be very unhappy. Now, these magnets are really, 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 really strong. The odds of you being able to push this center part through and pop that out is gonna be slim to none by yourself. What you can do is you can take the axle, put it back on the axle, and then slide that off, and then take the whole unit off. It may not be easy to begin with, but take your handy dandy, loosen that up, and that'll slide right off. Once you've broken that loose, we could take both of these, pull them off, be very, very, very careful. Now you're at this point where the magnetic part's exposed. This is when you have to be really, really, really careful, because this is sensitive inside. So we're just gonna pull that apart, fish the wires through the back end like that. One thing I did forget to show you, and I know you're gonna come across it before you even get to this point, is there were these little tabs here holding the wires to the truck. You're gonna wanna bend that back ever so gently. The odds of you breaking that tab off might be pretty good, because I did break one of my tabs off. Here's what we got now. We got the outside casing, and if you look here, see that ring in the center? That's a bearing as well. That's a really, really, really big bearing. See it? I can't stress enough how much cleanliness matters when it comes to reassembling these. A good way to tell if you have a good hub motor is by the windings. If these wires here look like they're wound, very symmetrical, very neat looking, you have a good motor. Also, what keeps it in place is going to be resin on the inside of the motor. And a lot of times you'll see the resin in there, but there'll be voids. That's a cheap motor, plain and simple. And you can see the windings here, how it's not symmetrical, it's not perfect. See how there's bumps here? That's the signs of a cheap motor, plain and simple. The better the motor, the better looking these windings are gonna look. And then if you look real careful, see the resin here in between? And some don't have it, some have it a little bit more. I've actually seen hub motors where like that resin inside there, or whatever they used, had melted, dripped down to the bottom of the motor, and just completely destroyed the hub motor. So better the motor, better resin they're gonna use, the more filled in it's gonna be, and the more symmetrical that wire is gonna look. It's a clear, distinguished look between a good motor and a cheap motor. I don't know if I should call it cheap, but a cheaper motor, how's that? Maybe if I get a chance, I'll break down like a Maytech motor and I'll show you the difference. This is the core of your motor. Within that core, like I said, you have Hall sensors. So here's the electronics for it. That's the pickup unit, and you're gonna have 3 sensors that feed to that unit, 1, 2, and 3. That's gonna go through these wires to a signal to the motherboard, and it's gonna tell the motherboard the positioning of the motor. Sometimes you can actually see the heat sensor. I don't see it on this one. It's normally white. Maybe it's on the inside. Maybe it's underneath this resin here that I can't see. I'm not quite too sure. I never really looked for it on this motor before. This is a 6-pin, well, it was a 6-pin Hall sensor motor. Alright, let's go back over things. We have the core. We have the cover that the core sits in. We have the PU wheel that sits over that cover. Then we have the cap. And that's it. It's pretty simple, guys. Like I said before, I can't stress enough. Clean this puppy up. Electrical parts cleaner. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to comment below. And let me know what you think about this video. Did I do all right? I know it's not the best in the world, and I could have did it in my studio. But I want to get this out. It's all the same. You guys are getting the information, and that's all I hope that matters. Please like or dislike. If you dislike, definitely comment below and tell me why you disliked. Doesn't matter why. just tell me why. I'd like to know out of curiosity. Or you can just sneakily hit that dislike and exit out of the video and never talk to me again. It's up to you. But I'd definitely like to know why you disliked it. No hard feelings at all. If you're someone I talk to all the time, I definitely want you to tell me why you disliked it. Alright guys and gals, that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more.